I'm gonna do this video over for a couple of reasons. Typically, when I make a video and you hear me all excited and I'm charged, it's because I'm just reacting to the video or I'm reacting to something that I just saw. But it is the following day after listening to Jason Black's show, The Black Authority, aka The Black Authority, that he did, his recent live that he did. And I'm not gonna lie, I was disappointed at the show. I didn't listen to all of it. The show's about 3 hours and 40 minutes. I have no clue when I came in the show. I'll tell you where I came in the show, but I don't even know what minute mark I came in the show because I don't know, I didn't know how long the show was going to be. But what I heard and what was displayed, in my opinion, was a piss poor demonstration of what black men should be doing. And so the reason I'm remaking this video is because I want this to be a constructive criticism of Jason Black. Now, he might be in his feelings. Frankly, I don't care. This just needs to be something that is shared. Now, this doesn't just apply to Jason Black. This also applies to the majority of the black men that are in the EL camp, whether they want to claim EL title or not, the non-thug category of black men that have found themselves to be gurus online. Kevin Samuels is in that pot. And let me start off with Kevin Samuels. Couple maybe weeks ago or a month ago, he did a video where he basically was essentially bragging about being a bouncer. I was a bouncer at one time. And I can tell you that Kevin Samuels was not a bouncer. If I owned a club, Kevin Samuels, in all of his character, all of his glory, he would not be a bouncer. He would not be the one that would be getting physical with people and taking them outside. I've had to do that. Grab people, push them through the crowd. You go out the front or you go out the side of the building. I had one time where, me and this guy got into it. I asked him to leave. At nice places, you want to have, bouncers that know how to talk to people. And the guy was just being belligerent. So I had to grip him up and took him outside. This was the dude that was on some, do you know who my father is? White boy. Pushed him through the crowd, pushed him outside. He was pushing back. So I had to get even more physical with him and pushed him outside. And I ended up knocking over, I don't know, some random white chick that wouldn't get the fuck out of the way. Okay. You see, Colossus and Juggernaut, pushing each other in the hallway. Why wouldn't you get the hell out of the way? Anyway, she didn't get out of the way. And I ended up having to deal with her boyfriend, who wanted to get loud because his girlfriend got knocked down to the ground. So now he wanna play the hero. But that's the type of situation that you got to deal with as a bouncer. Kevin ain't dealing with that. Kevin is either the doorman or Kevin is working bottle service. So I don't even know why he even presented that exaggerated lie. Right. On top of the fact that I highly doubt that Kevin Samuels is a card carrying, CCW holding, Second Amendment, type of person. And that's been one of my, big issues with not just the Black Authority, but also the Black True Professor. Right. Because, they up there talking about, pro-blackness, black liberation, all this stuff. They can talk about, Simone Sanders, haircut, for hours on end. But, in the long catalog of all the videos that they have done, right, and all the hours that they have spoken, all the years that they've been online, you can't get one video talking about black people arming themselves. It's just kind of a footnote. if they do bring it up, when black people in recent months have been the largest demographic of new firearms ownership in the black community. I've begged and pleaded and implored black men, so-called ELs, to not only work out, but also, get their CCW and carry. I've implored black men, to do this. I've implored black men to get politically active as it pertains to the Second Amendment. It's very frustrating for me with this, 90% of black women voting for, Biden Harris, and 80% of black men voted for Biden Harris. And yet black people are the largest demographic of new firearms owners in America. And yet you go and you vote for the party that, is talking about, Beto O'Rourke and hell yes, we're going to take your guns and your AR-15s. And, we don't believe in this and believe in that. And you shouldn't have guns and all that stuff. Look at any liberally controlled state or city. And what you will find is egregious gun laws that basically prevent law-abiding black people, the ELs, and their families from being able to protect themselves. Meanwhile, Ray Ray and Pookie run around like a bunch of savages, terrorizing the community and terrorizing each other. Right? Doesn't make any logical sense. But, these are the two main areas that really separate ELs from street dudes. Now, I was listening to Jason Black's show last night. And what I have to say in summary, or to abbreviate this video, is Jason Black needs to check his tone. And I really do mean that. He needs to check his tone. The way that he talks to people, and this is something that street dudes pick up on, and this is something that black women pick up on. People pick up on how, if some of these people were right in front of you, I highly doubt that you would be talking that way. And, as somebody who's been big their entire life, it's something that you'll notice about a lot of people that aren't as big as you. There's a lot of people, they're like all bark and no bite. And they talk a lot of shit, online. There's a lot of, Kevin does the same thing. Kevin, first off, he's 50 years old. Second off, to fit in that tight ass slim suit that he's wearing all the time, which looks good on him, by the way. I'm like, Kevin ain't got no muscles. So I'm like, stop talking like you out here, like you gonna run up on somebody. Stop talking like you could handle if a situation were to pop off. And see, this is where ELs get, bigger than their britches, so to speak. Because, at the end of the day, I'm like, you talking to people all reckless and crazy. And there's several problems with it. There's several problems talking all big and bad behind, a computer screen and, all this now. Oh, I'll do this and I'll do that. And, I don't know Jason Black. You know what I mean? I don't know what he looks like. I don't know how tall he is, what his weight's like, anything like that. You know what I mean? But he doesn't sound like nor come off to me like somebody who's actually going to put that type of work in. 9 times out of 10, any of these people, they making, money off of, this sort of content and stuff like that. They're living comfortably. They're not going to sacrifice any of that shit by going out here and putting hands on people. But I'm just talking about the tone in which he talks to his audience. Because I'm going to be real, the way that I was listening to Jason Black talk to some of the people that were, that he was having a conversation with on the show, I'm like, dude, if you were talking to me like that right in front of me, I'd put fucking hands on you. Straight up. I put fucking hands on you. And that's not a threat. I'm just saying that's the type of tone that he talks to these people with. And this is the part that I don't get. Like, there was a 55-year-old woman who called in the show, and some of the other viewers picked up on this, and Jason dismissed it. Where they were like, yo, like, let her talk, like, let it get it out. Like, like Jason just goes in and like, shark attack, just immediately if a person, disagrees with him or says anything, oh, the people that come on and they co-sign him 100%, they like literally like 10 seconds of them on the phone. Hey, Jason, I've been listening to your show, man. I love your show, man. It's so great, man. Oh, you're just so wonderful. And yeah, man, shout out to the Bay Area. And yeah, and thanks for having me. That's all I wanted to say, that you're just the greatest. And then click. And then, Jason will big him up. But he had a caller that called in, the second caller. This is when I got on the show, because there's only really 3 people that I heard before I got reminded why I don't listen to Jason Black's lives. And the thing is like, I'm saying I support Jason Black. I support Jason Black. I support Black Truth Professor. I even support, Tariq Nasheed, even though, he gets funny with his shit sometimes. I support them all. I want to see brothers do better and us, strive to work together and all that. I want to see that, but at the end of the day, man, if we can't check ourselves, then, we're unfit to be so-called leaders or so-called gurus or the voice of the Black community. So there was a guy who called in let me back up. The first woman who called in, she was from Alabama. And, the whole show was basically about, or I can't say the whole show. I'll say the segment that I listened to. There was a guy who called before the 55-year-old woman, and Jason was going back and forth with him. And, his whole attitude was like, what's the biggest, issue that's facing the Black community? He's like, coronavirus. And Jason appropriately responded by pointing out, like, this dude's acting like Black people were good until coronavirus happened. Like, just completely ignoring 400 years of slavery and Jim Crow and acting like that's a footnote. All right. I'm like, no, that's a solid response. Right. And I understand that it's frustrating for Jason to have to deal with people that just don't get it. But here's the thing. And let me skip around a little bit. We all know that Jason Black is an intelligent Black man. We all know that the Professor Black Truth is an intelligent Black man. We all know that Kevin Samuels is an intelligent Black man. They don't need to demonstrate that. Okay. I'm a big Black man. I've always been a big Black man. I went to the gym yesterday. What did I do when I went to the gym yesterday? I started off, I went in the gym. I did, I was bench pressing. I did 135 for a set of 30. That's my warm up. Then I went and I did 225. So I put another, 45 plate on each side. So I did 225. I did that for a set of 20. Then I put on 275, which is 245s and 2 quarters on the end, right? I did that for 10. And then I did 2 sets of 315 for another 10. No spot. Now, do I walk around, when I get into arguments with people and, I get in an argument, and as soon as I get backed in the corner or, somebody disagrees with me, I just start, I just pull a weight set out of my bag and I just start lifting weights. Like, no, I don't have to prove that I can lift weight. I don't have to prove that I'm strong. You can see it in my body. And the same thing goes for when you are somebody's, intellectual superior, which Jason is with essentially all the people that call in the show. I'm like, you don't need to flex on these people. That's like being, a freaking, a high schooler who got held back multiple grades, and now you're like 20 years old dunking on a bunch of 16-year-olds. Like that is not a display of strength. And that's what Jason Black does with a lot of the people that call on the show. Don't get me wrong. Some of the people need to be made an example of. Some of the people call in on some absolute dumb shit. And I understand fully how frustrating that is. But there's a difference between, like, example, even when I have my own content, there's a difference between attacking people personally and just, venting to the sky, which is essentially what the vast majority of my videos are. Venting to the sky about the problems that I see, in the Black community. And, people listen to it. And, if they feel some type of way, they feel some type of way. A hit dog will holler. Right. But I don't go out here attacking people personally. And especially, I did the Blog Talk Radio show, 10 years ago. And I even have I'll open up my old channel once the strikes go away. But I'm saying even on my old channel, I got some of those old videos, posted of me going up there. Like one of my favorite is Congratulations, because that one was me versus three other older black men, when I was in my 20s. You know what I'm saying? So I'm saying, I'm saying it's different when you're talking to people live, and especially when you have people who call, who like example, the one woman, she said, she was a new caller. Jason goes into, they were talking about property that she owned in Alabama. And I agree. What she said sounded foolish. She acted like somehow her family was exempt or immune from the racial politics of the South. And she couldn't even tell you how her grandfather acquired land. And I was like, okay, that just sounds dumb. But I'm saying, again, not everybody is not a wordsmith. Everybody cannot get it out, just immediately. They don't know how to get, directly to the point. That's the dialogues that we have, being able to make videos and do stuff like that. It is a skill. The ability to debate is a skill. Some of these people, they listen to you and they may have an opinion, but they're not used to conveying their thoughts or even writing down their ideas. They're not used to that. You know what I mean? So it's like, yo, relax, back up, chill. But you know what Jason does? Jason will say, oh, well, I got a lot of callers. I got a lot of people on the line. You're not going to take over my show, dude. And I'm like, what I notice is a lot of times when people disagree with him, he uses that as an out. Right? And this is the whole thing. Like, it's like a monologue. Like, he does enough videos that are monologues where he's up there, he's giving his own opinion. That's cool. That's fine. But when you have a show, and see, Kevin Samuels does this better than Jason Black does. When you have a show and you have people calling in the show, the whole point is to get differing opinions. And the thing is at black people voting for 90 and 80% for Joe Biden and Kamala, you already know that black people are fucked up. You already know that our minds are not right, and you're supposed to be the master teacher and convince people otherwise. But you can't do that when they call in the show and all you do is insult them and degrade them. And not to mention what makes it so bad is the fact that here we are as black men. And this is why I'm saying this is being addressed across the board with the so-called EL camp online. Here we are as black men talking about black women need to follow, get with our lead, we lead in the community and everything else like that. And we're putting on full display that we can't even show an ounce of respect for our own people. The brother from Anchorage that called in that was trying to back up the woman that, was from Alabama and said that he came from the line of people that actually got land that was willed to them, right? That's what he was trying to get out. But, Jason just didn't want to hear it because it contradicted, the 15 minutes before when he was ripping the woman apart. And I'm like, why don't you just let him finish his point? And that's another thing. You get this person that calls a show, hey, I'm a long-time listener. I support you. You got brothers talking about how they're shadow banned and how, their content is not being shared or spread. Well, that's one less person that's going to share your shit now because you shit it all over them. I'm like, the fuck is wrong with you? And this is what I'm saying about Kevin doing it a lot better, because Kevin will say what Kevin says, and then Kevin will have a whole show. What did I get wrong? What did I get wrong? Or he'll have a show, brothers want to call in, they want to co-sign. He's not looking for the co-signs. He's like, I need the ladies to call in. That's nice that you agree with me and you support my show. Oh, Kevin, hey Kevin, yeah, this is Tyrone from Detroit. Yeah, Kevin, man, I love what you're doing, man. I thank you, brother. I appreciate that. But we trying to get some ladies on the line. I do not want to see men in the call line. I'm trying to get some ladies on the line. Tell me what I got wrong. Tell me what I'm getting wrong. Talking about whether it's, why women are delusional when it comes to single mothers trying to get childless, high value men. What did I get wrong? Tell me what I got wrong. That's the way that you do it. You're going to, in other words, in other words, when you have a show like that, it's going to be a disagree fest. It's not going to be a cosign fest. That's the whole point of you open up the freaking call lines. It's so stupid. Like it's like the shit that he does. But this is Jason Black. Jason Black will have somebody. He gets on the line. They call on the show. Then and I agree. If somebody's talking over you, they need to be muted. I don't know why people call on the show and try to talk over you. However, the whole I'm just going to mute somebody, then I'm going to give a monologue and create this argument against them, and then I'm not even going to let them rebut. I'm just going to move right along like, haha, I won that. I'm like, no, actually you didn't. Actually you didn't. You look like you're running scared. You know what I'm saying? I'm saying if the person is wrong, hold that shit up to the lightest scrutiny. But see, the thing is he gets so frustrated and he gets so frazzled. And I'm like, this is not a demonstration of leadership, man. It's just not. It's not. And the lack of respect being shown for, people who are your followers, people who support you. I couldn't imagine what it would be like. It reminds me of a situation where you get like a kid that, once, he's got some basketball player like LeBron James, that's his idol. And he waits in line for 4 hours to get an autograph from LeBron James, and LeBron James just snubs him. You know what I'm saying? Think about how devastating that would be. There's a lot of people that look up to, many of the voices online, especially younger guys. I get messages from guys that's like, yo, I changed my major because of you. And they went into computer science or some sort of STEM as opposed to, what they were in before, which was some liberal arts bullshit that wasn't going to amount to anything. I get guys that tell me, hey man, I've been listening to you since I was 17. And I'm saying there's an air of responsibility there, an air of responsibility that sometimes even I I overlook. But I'm saying, like, at the end of the day, man, we getting older. You know what I mean? Like, we are entering the realm of the elders. And unfortunately, like, even with the woman that was 55, I know some older people are going to be like, oh, you need to respect your elder. That respect your elder shit is dead. Y'all dropped the ball. Y'all olders, y'all fucked up. Y'all dropped the ball. You didn't do what you were supposed to do. And we are a byproduct of what the previous generations didn't do. So you didn't earn that respect. So we're not giving it to you. A lot of you all come on and you say a whole bunch of dumb shit. I would love to see what the split was, the demographic split between that 20% of black men that voted for Donald Trump. I want to see the age breakdown on that one. Because I can guarantee you that the majority of that 20% is going to be young black men. Not older black men, young black men. And even that 10% of black women who didn't vote for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, that's going to be young black women. So you black olders already failed. So we're not giving you the respect like that for some of you all who just want to come with the, he don't need to speak to his elders like that. Fuck the elders. Fuck the olders, I should say. Not the elders, the olders. Amos Wilson was an elder. Dr. Claude Anderson was an elder. You see what I'm saying? But, it's like, it was just a piss poor display of, leadership, in my opinion, what I heard last night. And again, it showed up in my recommendeds. I'm subscribed to the Black Authority. I'm subscribed to him, the Black Trooper. I'm subscribed to all the big voices, that are in these conversations. And that's what it is. But I was disappointed, man. I was really disappointed. I understand that, it is frustrating when people, they got an opinion and they can't back up their own opinion, and they're just, well, I believe what I believe, but I don't really have a valid reason as to why I believe. I understand that's frustrating. But as somebody who's got the intellectual muscle, okay, and you're dealing with people who, lack in the critical thinking department, you got to have patience when dealing with them. And you should have patience, be it the fact that, we're getting older. I mean, when we first came online, man, we were charged, man. You know what I mean? Like, just charged. But when you get up online and you get up on the phone lines and stuff, and people who say, hey, I agree with 75% of what you say, but I disagree with 25%. You don't just dismiss. You don't just dismiss them. You say, okay, let's examine this 25%. And another thing is, it's just like Kevin, like, he comes off like just no black woman is ever going to win with Kevin. I'm like, after a while, you start, I'm like, okay, that woman, she was childless. You know what I mean? You said cam up, she looks good. I'm like, okay, what's the problem? What is the problem? You got women and, oh, I'm not married and everything. And then you got dudes running around slamming women for not being married, but you got men talking about they ain't trying to get married. I'm like, how you going to slam women for not being married when you got black men actively running around talking about MGTOW for life, I'm not getting married? That's retarded. Now, we can get into the reasons why men don't want to get married, like the court systems and child custody and, all that sort of stuff, alimony, and how unfair the court systems are to men. That's a valid reason. If men gotta, put their foot down and say, hey, that whole legal, union and how I get screwed over because of the way that shit plays out, like, hey, that's a valid reason. And if women were, really wanted to get married like that, they would be up there, trying to, break that shit down too. And say, hey, we got to change this. Yeah, it should be, child support should be itemized so that we can see exactly what is being spent on what. Right. But, again, women are still on the, what's advantageous for them. So they're not going to do that. So if men want to hold out on marriage because of that, hey, I'm like, well, ladies, there's no benefit for us right now. But to just start ripping on women because they're not married, and you got black men out here that either don't want to get married or aren't in the financial position to get married, I'm like, come on, Kev. And when it comes to the Black Authority, and I'm like, so again, somebody disagrees with you at 25% rate. Even though they agree with you on 75%, and now all of a sudden, they just ain't shit. Oh, I got brother, I got callers on the line. I'm like, that is such, it's weak, yo. That shit is a cop out. I got callers on the line. Like, he just skedaddles. You're not gonna take over my show, dude. And he's like, and dude's not even trying to interrupt. He's just like, but I just want to say, literally, like, damn near asking permission. You know what I mean? And I don't even know why. I don't know why dudes even go through that. I don't know why dudes even deal with that. Like I said, women pick up on the shit. You got no power in the community as an EL. You don't control the economic landscape. But since it's your show, this is where you're going to flex your power. This is where you're going to be a complete asshole. It's one of the areas in which why there's a lot of black women that don't want to, quote unquote, submit to black men. Not if you're going to be a tyrant about it. Not if you're going to be an asshole about it. How am I supposed to get with your program and you just run around like you were just the absolute authority? This is my house. It's like, yeah, it is your house. You know what I mean? But if it's just going to be straight up tyranny, like, fuck you and your house. You know what I'm saying? You can be in that bitch by yourself. I ain't fucking moving in there to be subject to that bullshit. And so, it's like, these are the type of things that women will pick up on. And with street dudes, man, ain't nobody fighting out here no more, man. People will blow your motherfucking head off, man. I'm like, watch your fucking tone, man. Otherwise, you'll have a situation like you saw with Tommy Sotomayor when Tariq Nasheed ran up on him. You know what I mean? And motherfucker was nervous. You see? I don't know who knows Jason Black or who he is or whatever. I don't care. But I'm just saying, man, like eventually, sooner or later, man, people are gonna like you gonna piss somebody off, man. And you gonna have somebody run up on you. You don't know who the fuck they are. Yeah, you was talking all that good shit. I'm like, man, you gotta be careful with that shit, man. And again, we don't have a reputation. We don't have a reputation of responding to violence, let alone kicking any violence off. We don't have a reputation for that. We don't have a reputation of defending ourselves against violence. But yet, you can hear it in the tone. You can hear it in the way that Jason talks to people, like as though he's big and bad. He gonna be out here, fucking people up with some real muscle. And I'm like, dude, I don't even know why you doing that, man. It's just like I was watching a video about Joe Rogan. This white guy did a video about Joe Rogan, and he was talking about how Joe Rogan, how he engages his audience and why he's so successful in the way he approaches his arguments, and the way he gets at people. Because Joe Rogan has had a couple people that you could tell he was pissed off. He was about to jump across that fucking table and fuck their ass up because they tried to go on there pulling some type of antics. You really saw this when it was Joe Rogan and Alex Jones. You know what I'm saying? He really got pissed off with Alex Jones because Alex Jones comes on there and he really tries to hijack the show. And he really does a lot of dodging of direct questions. But on the video, one of the things that the guy pointed out is how Joe Rogan will confront people, physically confront them. Like, for example, Carlos Mencia is known in the industry to steal people's jokes. And Joe Rogan confronted him about that, went to one of his shows, went up on stage and called him out right up on stage. But see, the thing is Carlos Mencia can do that. Joe Rogan can do that to Carlos Mencia because Carlos Mencia ain't built like Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan is a fighter. Joe Rogan, you see the way he be kicking them punching bags and shit, be kicking the shit out of them punching bags. I don't want to get hit by that kick. Like, even though, what is Joe Rogan? He's got to be 50 or near 50 or whatever. I'm saying Joe Rogan is still a force to be reckoned with. And that's why Joe Rogan can confront people. And that's why people respect, Joe Rogan, not just based off of what he says, but also the fact that he will dig in your ass. He will show the fuck up. And that's what I'm saying. Like, you got guys on here that talk crazy. Talk like they strapped, they not strapped. Talk like they in the gym killing themselves, looking like they in the NFL when they not. Talking crazy online, but again, I highly doubt that many of these people, if the person on the other line was right in front of them, that they would be talking that crazy. Especially if the other person looks like they could throw down, looks like they're fresh out of prison, looks like they play on some football team. You know what I'm saying? Looks like they can do some damage. I'm like, I don't even know why we take it there. I don't understand the aggression and the hostility. You know what I'm saying? Everybody who's calling in the Jason Black show is, essentially woke or trying to get woke or introduced to wokeness. You see what I'm saying? Like, we're all on the same page. Like, we all supposed to be on the same team. What's up with the hostility? I'm saying save the hostility for the shills. Save the hostility for the Simone Sanders and the roly-poly Martins and shit. You know what I'm saying? Save the hostility for all these coon-ass black people that we see up on MSNBC and CNN selling black people out. The people that keep going up there talking about people of color and black and brown folk and whatnot and don't want to say black. You know what I mean? And the people that, they answer to their liberal overlords and masters as opposed to answering to black people. And I understand it's frustrating trying to get people to understand where you're coming from, but insulting people live people who support you, like, I can't co-sign that, man. I can't. You know what I'm saying? And I'm saying this from the standpoint that I support, black authority. I support everything that he's doing. But I'm like, man, I can't support you just, shitting on motherfuckers that, say, hey, yo, I've been listening to you for a while. I love what you do. I love your support. Hey, I agree with 75% of what you say all the time. Hell, I agree with 90% of what you say. But this little 10% right here, I disagree. And you can hear it in Jason's tone. He gets irritated that anybody dare disagree with him. I'm like, damn, motherfucker, can you ever be wrong? Can you ever be like, okay, maybe I was wrong about that, or what did I get wrong? Like, there's an ego thing that I strongly picked up on last night that I was like, what the fuck is this, man? And I was reminded, because I didn't listen to one of his lives. I don't like listening to anybody's lives, especially Kevin Samuel's lives. His shit is straight up annoying. Get them likes up. Oh, okay. I see we're going to have an intermission. And then you got to sit there, and listen to the fucking, Money World, you know what I mean? Like, for the fucking, 100th time, you know what I mean? Money World, got to listen to that shit. I'm like, man, I'll come back when this motherfucker is done. And I'll listen to the show in its entirety, when he's done with all this, get them likes up. I need to see them donations and them likes. And I understand he got to make his money, but I used to do the same thing with Tariq Nasheed, man. The first 3 minutes of his shows, I always skipped over that shit. You gotta get my Mac this and my Mac that and my Mac aviator shades. And that shit was so annoying. And I understand people got bills to pay and all that other shit. You know me, I never monetize, the shit. I'm here because I care. And maybe that's not good enough for some people. But I'm saying, look, I'm not telling anybody not make their money. Make your money. But I'm saying at the end of the day, when you talking to your own people live, it's just not some cool shit to do, man. It's just not some cool shit to embarrass people live unless they really deserve it. I mean, you giving them chances. You know what I'm saying? You're like, man, I'm giving you chances to clean it up. And you still not cleaning it up. You know what I mean? And then you make an example out of somebody, or somebody who just comes on there and, is belligerent. You know what I'm saying? Like most of the people that Kevin Samuels bangs on and he hits them with that 21 gun salute, I mean, they deserve it. He gives them all the chances in the world. He falls back and says, okay, it's not a matter of just, I got to rush through a whole bunch of callers. Even though he did that to Karazhan, and I was like, why? This is the one you need to talk to. But I'm saying, that whole, I got to get through a bunch of callers and everything. Again, it's the quality of the caller. You know what I mean? Or highlighting to other people. First off, I don't understand the whole idea of having nothing but a bunch of people who co-sign and agree with you. That is not, first off, that's not even entertaining. Nobody goes and listens to a show just to hear a whole bunch of people co-sign and talk about how right they are. Like, that doesn't make a show. You want people who disagree. Okay, okay. Tell me your position. Why do you disagree? And it's nothing to get mad about. Look, I'm very passionate about the Second Amendment. You know what I mean? But, again, I got all the tools in terms of people coming up talking about, I think we should ban assault weapons, or I think we should ban handguns and this, that, and the third. I mean, just even little small stuff. I'm like, why are you so big on banning assault weapons? I'm like, the majority of the homicides in the black community are done with handguns. And they be sitting there like, yeah. Why don't we put metal detectors in the predominantly white schools where the mass shootings are happening? I'm saying black schools have had metal detectors since the 80s. And when was the last time where there was a mass shooting in a predominantly black school? Oh, you want to talk about the gun violence in the black community? That's an economic issue, because the gun violence is gang related, and the gang related shit, majority of which is drug related. Why are people selling drugs? Because there's no economic opportunities in the community. Maybe if we got some economic opportunities in the community, we could curb not all, but a majority of the gun violence. Would that be good enough? Would that be substantial? As opposed to taking away all the guns from the law-abiding people, the criminals, they don't follow the laws. You see how, that's just flowing off the top of my head. You know what I'm saying? First off, if you're that much more intellectually savvy than all the people that call in the show, then people who disagree with, that's nothing to you. That's lightweight. You know what I'm saying? You're Thanos with all the fucking rings and shit. Like that's nothing that you could literally just snap your fingers and come up with an argument, poof, to dismantle what the hell they're saying, to get them to see your side. You know, in other words, you have to reach master level of fuck it, let's go with that. Okay, that is when you move and transition from being a Padawan in the argument to being a Jedi. Fuck it, let's go with that. Okay, all right, whatever angle you want to approach it from, top, bottom, left, right, center, I don't care. Fuck it, let's go with that. Let's go with your argument and run it all the way to completion. And the matter of the fact, the fact of reality is that the majority of people never run their ideas all the way out to completion. They always stop right where they think the problem is solved, not realizing it creates other problems. It's like writing code on a computer and stuff. You know, I was what game was I fucking around with? The Division 2. You know, and that Division 2's still got some bugs in it. But what did the devs say? The devs said they couldn't fix the problem because it would break the game. Can't fix it because if we go in there and we change the code, then it could break other things. And that's always the issue when it comes to, the software engineers that make these games all the time. That's why a lot of times you won't see fixes for a very long time, because it'll break the game. You know, but people don't think about what will be broken. It's like the women that run around and they want to talk about being strong and independent and divas and queens and all that other stuff, and completely ignore what it really means to get with a subordinate man. Completely. I'm like, you want to have this alpha masculine go-getter type of guy. Well, he's not the type of men that are like that are not the type of men to get with your program. They're just not built like that. They don't make a model that is a go-getter and then gets with your program as a woman. That doesn't exist. You see? But a lot of them, they don't think that shit all the way out. Like, oh, damn, I didn't think about that. You know, it's just like these swirlers and, interracially dating and all this other stuff. We're going to go get a white man. And then they got issues with colorism and all that other stuff. But then they don't think about how they're going to feel when their light-skinned biracial daughter has a bunch of dark-skinned dudes asking her to prom and is getting attention that the mother never felt that she got. Is she going to be nasty to her biracial daughter because she feels some type of way? These are the sort of things that people don't think all the way out. It's just like what I talked about, marriage in the black community and the issue with so many women not having fathers in the home, and how as a black man, you're going to have to cover the whole thing because she doesn't have a support system. Chances are her mama ain't got it like that, right? And if you don't have it, like how y'all going to get married? Weddings are about $20,000. How y'all going to get married? A lot of dudes don't think about this. Even ELs that got damn good jobs and careers and shit, they don't think about that. You see them white weddings, you go to those non-black weddings and everything, you got two houses coming together, two families coming together, and the men are present. But you go out here with the broken black community and whatnot, and you find a sister you like and all that stuff, you may be the only man that's holding it down. And then not only that, you got a bunch of matriarchal women, aunts and grandmothers and cousins and all that stuff that's working against you. Because here you are trying to operate patriarchally, and she ain't come from a patriarchy. Again, not thinking the situation all the way out. So I just wanted to redo this video and really, calmly state my case, because I want this video to be taken seriously. This is not just about Jason Black. This is about ELs across the board on the internet when it comes to I'm saying, that's if they care. Again, that whole monetary aspect, people making money, that's all. I always have a raised eyebrow when it comes to that shit, because that shit is very alluring and people are funding their lifestyles and everything with YouTube money. And so that always changes the game on some shit. Patreons and all that other stuff. But I'm just saying, for ELs, we got to do a better job. in terms of, this sort of leadership and how we speak to our own people. I understand the frustration. I understand it's irritating when you get somebody who, they're so passionate and adamant about a particular position, but they can't even articulate why they feel the way that they feel and support what they support. That is frustrating. I cannot say that is not frustrating, because it is. But at the end of the day, I'm like, Jason Black doesn't need to flex his intellectual muscle. That's why people listen to you and they don't listen to any of these other people who call in your show who don't even have a show. That's why they don't listen to them. They're all listening to you because of your delivery, the way that you give the facts, the way that you lay shit out and whatnot. But the whole aspect of just being blatantly just mean-spirited to people, like Donald Trump, the whole aspect of, white people not liking in-your-face racism. A lot of people, they're not going to like, in-your-face disrespect. That dude from Anchorage did not deserve to be dismissed and shit on the way that he was. Now, other people can feel differently, or you may feel differently, or Black Authority may feel differently, but I don't think that was deserved. And again, I know I'm not the only one that caught this, because it was some other people, and I heard Jason Black say it out loud, because some of the people in the comment sections was like, yo, let her speak. And Jason went right into dismissing, those people's claims, because I didn't even see the comment. He said it out loud, like they were coming up in the chat. He's like, yo, let her speak. Like there's too much shark attack. Again, some people, yeah. Don't get me wrong. I'm not telling you to go up there and, what was it? What was Speedy Gonzalez's brother, or cousin, Slowpoke Rodriguez? Yeah, I've heard some Slowpoke Rodriguez types that call up on this show and they just can't get their point out. Yeah, move along. But when you get people that you're asking them questions and whatnot, you know what I mean? And that's another thing, because when he was asking the questions, where you're from, this, that, and the third, it seemed like it was digging to get to some aha, so I can now slam you. And I'm like, is that what we're doing here? Or are we trying to convince people of why they need to get off the Democratic liberal plantation? You're not winning anybody over with that shit. Again, you want to have a monologue? You want to, rant to the sky, by all means. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about these live shows when these people are calling in, and many of these people are your supporters, and you just shit on them. I'm like, damn, man. I'm like, wow, like, what is that? Seriously, that's some ego shit. I'm like, what is you don't even need to flex on these people. They're coming to you for answers. They're coming to you for wisdom. And yeah, everybody's not just going to take everything that you say as the gospel truth. They may take slight issue with one or two things that you're saying. And I'm saying this guy, the Anchorage dude, it wasn't even actually a true disagreement about anything that Jason Black says. He was just saying, I'm from Alabama. I'm from the lineage of people whose ancestors willed some land. I don't know, maybe it was some slave master that was feeling some type of way about the evils of him owning slaves and basically gave up the land. Like, this type of shit goes on. You had that guy I remember a couple years ago, he was in the Caribbean, multi-millionaire in the Caribbean, and he gave all of his wealth to his servant. All of his wealth, shit like that goes on. So the way that Jason just dismissed it, I was just like, man, you out of pocket, man. You out of pocket. This dude is a loyal follower of yours, and you talking to him like he just ain't nothing, man. Just ain't nothing. And then again, many of these individuals have the audacity to sit around and talk about why nobody's sharing their shit and nobody is why them being shadow banned and shit like that. Like, I know I'm legit shadow banned because I had somebody who knows somebody who came out and basically shared that information with me. But But some of these other folks, like, I'm like, man, black men to black men, we got to do a better job of demonstrating and showing respect to each other, even when we have disagreements. It doesn't need to just immediately, just get turned up to 11. Just, oh, nigga, come see me. Like, what is that? Like, you gonna fight somebody, and then on top of that, being an EL and not even really being built like that, like, you're not a savage. You're not a savage. You know what I'm saying? Like, I remember they used to give out fucking awards like that. You not a thug using college. You not a thug use in college. For the brothers that were walking around campus like they was in the streets and shit like that. It's like, nigga, use in college, yo. You can stop that. Stop running around like you sticky fingers or some shit like that. But I mean, that's pretty much all I gotta say. I hope this is taken as constructive criticism. If not, you want to feel some type of way, feel some type of way. But this is just a message to all the brothers, online. I mean, this goes back to the Hotep dudes, and when they used to talk about with the, Hotep brother. I used to hate that shit, but I gotta admit, I understand why they did it. To put on a display of respecting each other when they greet each other. But man, this sort of nigga shit, like, I am the supreme being and all of you are just beneath me, as this sort of white superiority complex that we convey and illustrate and demonstrate with each other. Then turn around and talk about how the white man needs to respect us, or the black woman needs to submit and get with our program and recognize us as the true alphas and the ones to be followed. I'm like, nah, homie. I'm like, nah. That shit gets documented. That shit gets documented. When the shit just starts looking like fucking arrogance, and it just starts looking like, we ain't even really doing anything but talking. People can say what they want about, like, the Nation of Islam. I'm not even the biggest fan of the Nation of Islam. I know some people in the Nation of Islam that they had some shit going on, 60-year-old men that got kids with women in their early 30s. I know shit like that. Nation of Islam. But what I will say is one of the reasons why they were very effective, and this is coming directly from Captain Solar, one of the reasons why they were effective is because they were actually in the streets. They were visible. It's not just a matter of, I'm going to speak and get people's minds right, and they're going to, they're going to go out there and do all the work. Like, no. Don't get me wrong. Yeah, it is invaluable to get people's minds right and give them a perspective that they may not have, or give them something to consider. It may take them a while to consider it. But to, just out up there live blatantly insult them, I'm like, that's not the way to do it. It's like Cap used to do me when I used to complain to him about not holding women accountable. He was like, all right. He was like, you can complain about women burning down the log cabin in the woods that black men built, but at the end of the day, I can assure you that you all as men will be the ones rebuilding it. I was mad as hell. I was like, Cap, you'll never hold these bitches accountable. He was like, I'll leave the tools right by the door. You will be picking them up. And when I called one of my black female friends and I was like, don't you think we should hold these bitches accountable? She was like, yeah. I was like, yeah, they burnt down the cabin. Yeah, we need to hold them accountable. She was like, yeah. And I was like, what do you think we should do? She was like, throw them in jail. And man, that shit hit me so hard. I was like, throw them in jail. Like, all I could think was debtor's prison. I was like, that's a fast way not to get your money. Is, you know what I mean? Like, all that, yes, he owes me $1 million. What should we do? Throw him in jail. No. That's I don't want them in jail. He can't get my money back while he's in jail. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's not gonna work. Debtor's prison is like the stupidest thing ever. Stupidest thing ever. It's like, even, like, you see this with women. You'll have what do you call it? Some custody, not custody, but divorce shit and whatever, and the guy can't pay child support, and the court threatened to throw him in jail. I'm like, well, that's the fastest way to make sure that he doesn't pay child support, because he most certainly ain't gonna be paying it from jail. But Cap was 100% right, and I'm saying he let me marinate on it. He didn't just immediately go into, oh, Pete, you a dumbass. You just all type of stupid. He didn't go into that. No, he was like, I'll leave the tools right here. You will be picking them up. And, he couldn't have been any more true in what he was saying, because the audacity, the stupidity of me to sit there and recognize that women are not the builders or the maintainers of the physical infrastructure. And then to even suggest that if women come in and burn down a log cabin that men build, that they're going to be even capable of fixing it. Like she's going to go off and get her girlfriends and they're going to pick up the tools and I'm going to be woken up in the morning by the sounds of construction. Like, no, that's not going to happen. Like Thugtician said, years ago, he said, oftentimes, women will destroy things and, it's unfixable. Which essentially goes back to why rules and shit have to be made and why they have to be controlled. In other words, rebuild the log cabin, but make sure you have rules next time that say no woman is allowed in the log cabin with matches unsupervised. Let them piss, shit, and fart and complain about how sexist it is, but at the end of the day, that you did that shit because, they're not going to fix it. It's no different than dealing with children. You don't let underage kids drive your car that aren't on your insurance. Why? Because then it's not like they're going to go and get a summer job. Oh, sorry for crashing your car. Let me go get a summer job and pay for it. They wouldn't. There's no way for them to make enough money to repay you for your, $55,000 vehicle. It's not going to happen. And so certain things have to be put in place. Right. This is one of the reasons why there's age, requirements to be able to do certain things, because only adults can be held accountable. Children cannot be held accountable. And in the world of gender roles, when it comes to men cannot hold women accountable. You can try. You'll see it in the court system legally, in terms of if a judge comes down with a verdict, but socially speaking, you can't hold women accountable. It's impossible. Because all she's going to do is sit there and be like, well, if you were a real man, like, how that goes, the only reason I got us lost is because you didn't know how to drive. Even though in reality, she was begging or demanding that you let her drive. And if she, doesn't drive, it demonstrates how sexist you are, right? All that type of stuff that women will do. Then if you fall asleep while she's driving and she gets lost, it's going to be your fault why she got lost. All of a sudden, it's going to be, well, the only reason I was driving is because you're weak. It's like, really? Really? It wasn't an half an hour of you bitching and moaning and talking about sexism and evil patriarchy as to the reason as to why you wanted to drive. And I said, fuck it. And I let you drive. And now we're lost. I wake up and I'm like, where the fuck are we? You're like somewhere up by the Canadian border. You're like, the fuck are we? Good luck trying to hold her accountable. Good luck looking at her and saying, well, you need to get us out of this. Obviously, she can't get you out of it if she got you lost in the first place and woke you up because she didn't know how to get you all out of that situation. Obviously, you're going to have to do what you need to do, even though it wasn't your fault, to rectify the situation. That is what manhood is about. And I know a lot of people want to, they get frazzled when you say that, but that's the reality. It's the reality. But if we're up here talking about leadership and we're up here talking about, women getting with the program and patriarchy and all that other shit, I'm like, we got to show a level of respect when it comes to, each other. And again, I don't agree with all that respect your elders, just because, they're old, but, there's a way of, getting people, off the line and moving the conversation forward without just, attacking somebody who's not even being hostile towards you. That's another thing that I don't understand. Not even being hostile towards you. I don't understand what's up with all the hostile energy. I just don't understand it. It's a bad look. And, that's pretty much all I have to say about it. I don't want to drag this video out any further than I've already dragged it out. I'm already at an hour. Let me stop. Let me end this video. But, yeah. So this is just an area that I think seriously needs to be worked on by black men. Any content creators, any people. And that's another thing. I can honestly say that I don't see people doing that. I don't see that with Tone Talks. You don't see that with who's the other one? Tone Talk or True Crimes. What's that? The Thought Crimes. That's the other one. Thought Crimes. You don't really see that level of belligerent disrespect going on. There's other people, they engage in more civil discourse. Like I said, it might have just been this show, but I've come across Jason Black's material before, and that to me, I felt some type of way about that, and that's why I'm speaking on it. And again, this isn't the first time. It's just I'm like, man, we're still on this. We're still doing this. Anyway, that's all I got to say. That's my video. SWP out.